Why?
I want to make sure that I hit the record button. I think I did, but I want to make sure.
Bruh.
All right. It don't matter. We can edit this out.
Oh my god. If it's recording right now, we have to keep all this. 100%, I'm gonna text Marco and be like, it's all staying. We're keeping it all. One take. I love it.
If he does, he's got to put like a disclaimer in there, like, we know that this was a screw up, but we left it in on purpose because none of them an idiot.
No, it's
All right,
authentic.
so what's up, everybody? Chad at Indie Fitness for All Roads Lead to the Gym podcast. Today, our special guest is Cale Harmon Moore. He's got a lot to talk about. I asked him to come on here because I know a little bit about his story, but I was interested in hearing the rest. We, as normal, as usual,
Always here.
the always steady, The Rock, my confidant, best friend, Nicholas Otto Assad.
That was a lot. Thank you.
So I'm just going to tell what I know, how I know Cale. So when we bought the gym 4 years ago, a short time after that, I know his wife started coming to the HIIT workouts in the evening, and before long I was seeing Cale show up. He started getting really into lifting. When he came in here, I think like you were basically starting from scratch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we COVID, we shut down. I used to go to the gym in Coffeyville. I kept my membership down there. Like, we weren't going to work, we weren't doing anything. Like, I worked from home for a year and a half. And so Jess started coming to the gym here, and I was like, all right, well, we'll just switch up here, and I'll start going to the gym there.
So one funny fact about your wife, Jessica, I'm not good with names, but I give everyone a nickname, and she seemed super athletic when she was coming to the HIIT workouts, and she could like do things that other people just couldn't do. She's just an athlete. And I asked her one day, I said, were you an athlete growing up, like some kind of like star stud, like softball player, volleyball player, something like that? She just laughed and she said, mathlete maybe.
Yeah.
And so from that day forward, I
Mathlete.
referred to her as Mathlete, and I
Yeah.
still do to this day. Until you said her name, I couldn't even remember because all I know her as is Mathlete. So, and man, she was so good at those HIIT workouts. She hadn't been coming a whole lot lately, but hopefully she'll get back. I'm sure her life was disrupted, and we're going to talk about that here shortly. I just kind of want to get into just start off with this. Like, when you started lifting, there was a point there pretty quick that you got really super dedicated.
Yeah.
And were kind of motivated by the 1,000-pound club.
Yeah, I mean, you hit me up one day, and you're like, hey, you can do the 1,000-pound club. And I'm like, no, I can't. I can't hit any of those numbers. And you're like, no, I'm pretty sure you can do that. And I was like, I got to looking, and I was like, maybe if I worked at it, like I could try a little bit with my bench, and that'd be all right. That'd be kind of a cool goal to hit. And then I was like, no, I can't do it the next time, but maybe 4 months I could do that. And then I started looking and started like going through stuff and like figuring out what I could do. And I was like, yeah, I think I could do this. And I talked to my brother some, and like I had him come down for my first 1,000-pound lift club. And like I had a plan laid out, and my squat failed. And then deadlift, I was like, I've never lifted that much before. And my brother's like, you can do it, dude. Like, that last one, you look great. And I was like, you can do that. And I was like, all right, well, we tried it. And I actually hit 1,000 pounds exactly.
It was like right on the
On the
dot
money.
the first time.
100%. The first
And
one.
so then, like, the candle was lit after that.
How many have you done? 1,000-pound club?
I think 5 or 6.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, it was not every time, but it was pretty much every other time I would hit that. Yeah.
Right on.
And got where his numbers were getting up there pretty good. And I'd see him every morning. He would be getting ready to leave when I was getting here in the morning.
So you're a morning guy?
Yeah.
And just one day, wasn't here anymore. And I didn't know why. And people come and go all the time. I didn't think a whole lot of it. Some it's seasons of life, and people get busy. And I know you have little kids, and a very stressful, busy job.
What do you? So that I was gonna ask. What do you do?
So I'm an engineer. I actually work for John Deere and Coffeyville Works, and
Oh, okay.
I design gears and bearings and transmission systems. So
Dope. All right.
Yeah. So super smart, married to
Yeah.
a super smart engineer, married to a mathlete.
Yeah. Squatting
Uh,
495. Okay.
yeah, right.
So,
Respect.
and then I don't even remember how. I think my wife came home one day and said,
Yeah.
I heard Kel
Yeah.
was not had a tumor or something. You want to tell us a little bit about like what happened, why, maybe like the leading up to that, what happened, and how this came to be, and kind of what your condition was.
Yeah. So yeah, like April, just went to stand up one day, and it was like just felt dizzy, and it
What year was that?
in 2023. So
Okay.
yeah, we're a year out from when I had surgery and everything. But April of 2023, just like didn't feel right when I stood up a few times, and it wasn't consistent. It was like every once in a while, and it was always when going from sitting to standing. It was never squatting, it was never deadlifting, it was never
Damn.
anything that was like I was doing heavy load on my nervous system. It was always something weird. And at that time I was also running 4 and 5 miles a week, getting ready for the Tough Mudder. I do the Tough Mudder every year.
Yeah.
And I was, running all the time, but it was always like a weird, I'd go from sitting to standing and I just feel like crap. And I'm like, that's not right. Went to the doctor, got on some blood pressure meds, and they're like, yeah, let's try this. And then so like, okay, went out, and he's like, it'll take a while. So, if you're still having symptoms in like a month or something, he's like, that's maybe somewhat thing. If it's a little longer than that, let me know, and then we'll come back and look at it again. I was like, all right. So then like May, went back because I was like, it's still not doing great. Like I wasn't getting any worse, but I wasn't getting any better.
Yeah.
And so, it was like, I don't know, something's just off.
You were
Like,
still lifting at this point?
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
still,
that's
yeah, I'm
crazy.
still, like I said, April, I hit 495 squat, heaviest squat I ever hit. Like that was my goal. was to
That
hit
is a
495.
hell of a squat
more
for
than-
everybody
that's
out
more than
there.
me.
Yeah, for
that's a hell of a squat.
Yeah. And so I was happy with that, and I was like, all right, yeah, I'll, keep going, keep working towards it, and, not starting to taper off a little bit and lift lighter, but I'm like still doing the same gym every morning, running twice a week, maybe 3 times a week, and things are going along. And then went back in May, and when I went back in May, I'm like, hey, I'm still having the same issues. Like,
Dizzy
I don't know
spells, yeah.
And they're like, well, that's kind of weird. And so they checked out my ears, thought maybe it was like an inner ear issue or something. And they look in there and they're like, I don't know, you got some like fluid buildup going on. So maybe you're just like starting to get a cold or something. We're going to give you a steroid shot and just kind of deal through that. I was like, all right. Did that. And then
Nothing got better.
it was like 2 weeks later. Like I noticed some symptoms went away, but I still had just intermittent dizzy spells. And I didn't think much about it. I don't know.
Was there a time when you were just like exhausted with the doctors, or like you were just like,
Probably annoying to
no,
just go back.
come on, bro, this
Yeah.
is not what's. I mean, was there a point when you were like, they're wrong, this is something worse, or did they figure it out?
No, it was really like they kept dealing with me. Like so like April to May was kind of like my big. I was like pretty frustrated with that point. And then like May, I was like, all right, we're not really sure what's going on, but they know something's going on. I know something's going on. Like we're trying to figure it out and just trying to look for. Because at that point, he's like, honestly, there's nothing that's standing out that is like diagnostic I can do with it. He's like, so if you just kind of pay attention to when things happen and try and figure out when that is, let me know, and then we'll just keep working on it. I was like, all right. So really nothing happened in May. I got the shot, and then really nothing. And then June, didn't even go back. Like things that hadn't gotten any worse. It was like, honestly, they'd maybe gotten a little bit better. Just still random intermittent spells. Felt a little off. I noticed in the gym that in like June, July timeframe, I went to do some single leg squats, and I was just like,
Equilibrium was off.
it just felt like one side was weak. And so it just felt like I went to do the right side, and I'm like, oh God, my right side is just really weak. Something
Like just a couple less reps, or like
yeah,
none
Yeah.
at all. type
It
of
was
deal.
it was like 2 less reps than the left side, and I was like, well,
I
that's
feel
weird.
like that sometimes.
Yeah, and so I'd had that happen before.
Uh-oh.
Cut it out.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
Cut it out. I never go to the doctor. Cut it out. So,
Be fair, I never went to the doctor much before this. I mean, I occasionally when I was sick, I'd maybe go once a year. I mean,
Yeah.
that was kind of it. It was like if I was really sick, I'd go to the doctor, but I didn't really worry about much before that. This whole experience has changed my outlook on that.
yeah.
um,
I bet.
But so then like really nothing in June, and then like July, like I said, I go run the Tough Mudder every year. So I went out with my buddies to Colorado. We ran the Tough Mudder 9 miles. We go through like 30 obstacles,
Damn.
and like half of them are like you flip upside down, go through water obstacles, all that. And I didn't have any issues whatsoever on the Tough Mudder, nothing. I came out of the ice plunge, which is like you're running like 95-degree weather and you jump through an ice bath. And
Dang.
they make it so you have to go underwater because they put like barbed wire above you, so you have to duck under and go under. And I felt just a little off after that one, but really nothing. And I was like, all right, I'm fine, whatever. That night we got back, went to the hotel, cleaned up, and then we got this bar we go out to afterwards that was always our go-to place. And it's like 3 blocks from the hotel. And so we like go to the hotel, get cleaned up, go to walk. I just felt like crap. Like I had to sit down like every block. I was like, something is wrong.
Not drunk at all.
No, I hadn't had a drink at all. Like we'd ran, I took a shower, and then we're going out to drink. I hadn't
Yeah.
had anything whatsoever at that point, and I just felt like shit.
You're at the bar thing.
Yeah, so we're going to just walk, and it's like 3 blocks away, and at the end of the blocks they've got some of those like barricades where the like cars can't go where people are, and there was one of those, and I just had to sit down like literally every single block, and every time I'd stand up, like my head was just pounding.
Did you think this had something to do with the race, or did you think this had?
I thought I was dehydrated, and so I was like, all right. So I got like 3 glasses of water and a beer, and then I was like, all right, that'll.
Just trying to think of your mindset here. All this is going on. You're having these little things here and there. Did you have like a fear that it was something greater, or
No, not really.
just kind of like,
just
we'll
like,
figure it out?
Yeah, it was really there's something screwed up, and it's something minor, and I just need to figure out what. I was like, I have no issues with doing that sort of stuff. It's like, all right, it'll be fine. Not a big deal. And so at that point, I still was like, no, it's just I gotta get something's wrong. I don't know what the hell it is though. And
It's got to be frustrating. That's over a course of time like that,
Oh,
just
yeah.
to keep having.
yeah, just like 3 months, and I'm just like, I have no clue what's going on. And so like every block I was having to stop and sit down, and I'm just like, man, I feel like shit. I don't know what's going on. By the time we got there, 8, walked back, no problems. It's like, okay, it went away.
The
Whatever it
ice.
was.
I think it was. You think it was the ice?
No, I just think that was like just happened to be one of the obstacles where it was triggered.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was anything to do with the ice. That was the only obstacle I just noted anything.
Yeah.
Like the other ones where I flipped over and everything.
You're doing all this rocking a tumor.
Yeah,
Like no big deal.
none.
Like I mean, minute big deal. It's
Yeah.
seeming like like.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the crazy part about this whole thing is I had no clue I had a tumor, and that's why I'm like, every time I went in there, like, oh, hey, it's this, and I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why would I be able to do these things and not,
Yeah.
like, and have a tumor or whatever? Like, and so.
So we're foreshadowing here that you have a tumor. So
Yeah.
so when did we find that out? How did we figure that out?
So September. So really, like nothing had happened, and I'm like, August went in for like a long time with the doctor. I spent like an hour with him in the office, going through all sorts of different tests, trying to figure out what's going on. It was kind of after this because it was the end of July is when I ran the Tough Mudder. It was like a week and a half till I could get in. It wasn't a big deal, so there was really nothing I could do. And so like August went in, we spent like an hour in there, and they're like, hey, I think you have vertigo. And I'm like, what do you mean vertigo? And because one of my coworkers had vertigo.
I've had
like,
that. It's miserable.
My mother-in-law had vertigo, and I've seen them and like how they react to it, and they're like, you don't have the normal symptoms, but the failure test to determine you have vertigo, you fail. And I was like, so you have vertigo? And I'm like, okay. So that's what it is. So then they sent me to a chiropractor, and I was supposed to do vestibular therapy to work through all this stuff. Like nothing really got better. It was like by the end of 3 weeks, I don't know how many sessions I went.
Time wasted.
Yeah, it was not anything like they did wrong. Again, it was,
They're just searching, like
yeah,
diagnosing a little bit at a time so they get to the answer.
yeah,
That's scary though.
yeah.
You know what I mean? You're just like, that would bug me out, dude.
Well, and then,
You go to the doctor now frequently, I bet.
yeah, a lot more frequently than I want to, but, so like end of August comes around, and then September, my dad's got he had glaucoma, so we were taking him down to a place in Tulsa, and I had to drive him back. And so I just rode down with him. I worked on my computer at a coffee shop while he was doing all the stuff. And then when he was done, I went to drive him back. And that way we didn't have to do anything. We stopped in Bartlesville to grab food real quick. And it was like September 15th. Walked in and went to order food. And when I walked in, I didn't feel right. And I'd had this a couple of times where like I just didn't feel right, something was wrong, so I just sit down for a minute, and then everything kind of went away. And so I walked in, sat down, and I was like, man, I don't feel right, something's wrong. And so Dad and I just sat there and talked for a minute, and then I was like, all right, I'm fine, we'll just go eat food. And I walked up, and when I was walking up to the counter to order food, like I was just like, started to feel just weirder and weirder, and I was like, all right, I'll just get through this and go sit down, and then I'll be fine. And I was halfway through my order, and I literally had a seizure and fell on the ground.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, dude, it was my dad had friends that were epileptic, like back in the day before medicine was great. And he said, it looked like I was just having a grand mal seizure, like full on everything. The weird thing was, like when I had a seizure, I knew it was happening. I knew that I was slurring my words, like I sounded drunk. And then I started to lose like vision, and I just lost all function of my arms and legs.
Fully aware of it happening.
Fully aware of it
That's
happening.
freaky, man.
Yeah, and so I'm laying on the ground in Brahms, like right in front of the counter, and the dude's standing there's like, what the hell? And I'm like, just flopping on the ground. My dad's like, what's going on? Nobody did anything.
You can call an ambulance? Or?
No, nobody called an ambulance, nothing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dad's old school.
Yeah.
And so
Walk it off.
so I go to get up, and like I was like, oh, that was fucking weird. And Dad's like, you can tell he's afraid.
Yeah.
And Dad's like, do you want to go to the hospital? I was like, what? So we can do the same fucking thing? We've been going for months. Ain't found shit. And so we went and sat down, ate our food, and then I called the doctor on the way back, and I was like, hey, I need to get in. I had a seizure. I was like, I don't know what this means, but you need to get me in. And so that was Thursday night. Couldn't get me until Monday morning. And so Monday morning, I went in to my normal doctor, and he's like, you need an MRI. He's like, I don't know what's going on, but we know it's something. He says, we need to do an MRI, and when can we get you? And I was like, well, as soon as you can do it. Like, this is scary. Like, I don't want to do that again. And
So your words weren't slurred anymore? Or?
no, after the seizure,
You said you ate afterwards too, so you
sat there,
popped up normal again, or like, what did I order again? Like,
right?
That bacon cheeseburger. Huh?
Yeah. So I sat there, ate food. Dad drove home because after 45 minutes, his eyes were fine. And so Dad drove home the rest of the way, and I just hung out on the couch the rest of the weekend. I worked from home on Friday, just sat there doing my normal engineering stuff on the computer, and then Saturday and Sunday, I just kind of took it easy, just tried not to do anything. Monday, went to the doctor. He's like, you got an MRI? We're going to get you in as soon as possible. And I was like, whenever you can do it. If I got to go to Parsons, if you can do it here. He's like, the truck comes here tomorrow. And he's like, so you lucked out on that one? So we'll get you in as soon as possible. And he says, it might be early. And I said, whatever, I'm usually up at 5 because I was coming to the gym at 5.
Yep.
And he's like, all right, well, we'll see what we can do. And he calls me back like, I don't know, 2 hours later, and he's like, yeah, we can get you at 7 a.m., just be here at 7, don't eat, come in and do the MRI, and then he's like, it'll probably be a week to get imaging back. He says, that's what I normally get. He said, so don't expect anything right away, and then we'll just kind of deal with that. I was like, all right, cool. So drove myself in the next morning, went to the MRI, MRIs suck. In case you've never had one.
Had one.
Is that where you go in the machine?
Yeah,
And it's really small.
they are tiny. They say they're weight rated for 500 pounds. I don't know how anybody that weighs 500 pounds would ever fit in this damn thing.
Yeah.
Well, and I had an MRI when I tore my
Yeah,
rotator
shoulder.
cuff, and you got to lay in there like in a very uncomfortable position, and you can't move for like 45 minutes.
You did based on your shoulder.
Shoulder.
You
yeah.
didn't lay like that.
Yours was
No.
for your brain or
Yeah,
for your head.
They just did my head,
Yeah.
and then I just laid in like normal.
Your head barely fits in the thing. You can imagine my whole body in there, and it just tick, tick, tick the whole time. But they put music on for you.
Yeah, so I got to listen to music on that one.
You get to bring your own music if you want, or tell
that's
them what you want, and they put headphones on you. It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when I walked out of the MRI, I asked the imaging gal if, hey, did everything look good? You know, I need to do anything different? She's like, they'll get back to you soon. And I did not expect that response. So right then I knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
I was like, shit.
And they said a week. Did they hit you up before that?
So I drove to work, and then I got to work at like 8:30. At 11 o'clock, they called
Oh
me.
shit.
Yeah. And
What happened to a week, right?
I was like, that's not good.
Yeah.
And so I am in the test cell working with a transmission. We were checking it out, talking through some things, and I was standing there talking to my boss, and they called, and I was like, that's not good. So I stepped out, and they're like, yada, yada, and I was like, yep, I can be there. I'll be there after lunch. And they're like, we want you here as soon as possible. I was like, I have to finish this. I don't know what you're going to tell me, but I know you're going to ruin my day, so I need to finish this and do my lunch, and then I'll be right there. And they're like, okay. I go to talk to the doctor, and he's like, I didn't want to do this over the phone. And I was like, I know. But I knew as soon as you called me at 11 o'clock, my day was ruined, and this was going to suck.
Yeah.
And so he calls me. We get in there to basically, I walked into the office, and then as soon as I walked in the office and checked in, they're like, oh, okay, yep. We've got this room right here for you, and I just walk straight in.
Yeah, you don't wait. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, well, that was weird. I've never had that.
You're like, how do I get that to happen every time?
Right.
Even when I get good news.
Right. And so I walk in, and Darren is who I normally see, and Darren's like, hey, so, and he's like trying to figure out the best. I was like, dude, I know it sucks. Like, you wouldn't call me in if this didn't suck
Yeah,
so bad. So
spit it
just
out.
Spit it out.
Yeah.
And Darren's like, okay. And so Jess is in there with me, and he's like, so you have a brain tumor. And he's like, it's big. And it's as a size of scaling size, it was the size of a golf ball.
Damn.
And so where it was basically, you know, if you look at like the pictures of brain, like you've got the front, and then you've got like the
You're all right.
two hemispheres. It grows like right in the center of that, and where mine was, it was growing down and pushing on my brainstem.
Oh,
And so where your brainstem comes out at the bottom of your skull, it was pushing against that, and my spinal column and all the nerves and everything were having to basically, you know, like Stewie, no.
I would say this
yeah.
is probably a good time to say there's something wrong with his medulla oblongata.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
Isn't that what that's the medulla back there, isn't it? Or, you know, I think so.
I have no clue.
Yeah, I believe so.
I've seen so many images and everything else, but
Yeah.
I still have no clue about the anatomy of it. But yeah, so I talked to the doctor, and they're like, this is Tuesday morning, or Tuesday, like right at noon. And he's like, we need to get you to the doctor. And he's like, there's a neurosurgeon in Tulsa that we dealt with before and had really good luck. Breezy, one of the other doctors, had gone there. And she's like, she had great luck with him. We're going to send you down to him. And so he's like, we got an appointment for you at Friday at noon. I'm like, all right.
Quick.
So, yeah, I show up down there Friday at noon, and they're closing the office. And I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, oh, yeah, we close at noon, but we got you in. I was like, okay. And so, like, they had to call in a favor for me to get in at noon on Friday because I needed to be seen, like, super quick.
Immediately.
Yeah. And so I walk in, and we've got the imaging, like they take the imaging disc so that like you can pass it along to the doctors and everything. And he pulls it up, and he starts looking through it, and he looks at me.
Yeah.
I was like, what? And he's like, if I looked at this image and looked at it and was expecting a person, I would expect a person sitting in a wheelchair
Yeah.
who
Damn.
couldn't balance and couldn't hardly do anything because the size of your tumor your brain has adapted around it.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, how long have I had this? Is this like fast growing or something? He's like, no, if you look at the brainstem, he says you can see your brainstem is shifted to the side. And what that means is it's slow growing, which is good news. He says, but it's huge. This will kill you.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right. He's like, you need to get this operated on. I worked on this tumor last week. I will not touch yours. It is too big. You need to go to a place where they do nothing but this day in, day out, all year long. I'm like, okay. And he's like, I've sent a patient to the guy who does the trainings I go to every year. And he says, I've sent 2 patients to him in my career. I'm sending you to him. And he says, so we're going to call right now. You're going to be on the phone with me. We're going to deal with that. And then, we're going to get you up there as soon as possible.
Where's up there?
So I went to Columbia, Missouri. So he was in St. Louis, and my doctor is Dr. Chicoine, Dr. Michael Chicoine, and he's the head of neurosurgery at the MU college. Like, so literally where Mizzou plays is right across the street from the hospital I stayed at.
How long from the time that you talked to him right then were you in surgery?
So that was...
I didn't mean to jump your time.
No, you're good, man. I wrote some of this stuff down just because, like, it gets kind of...
A lot of dates to remember.
Yeah, it's a lot of shit to remember. So it's September 22nd. I talked to Dr. Mangles in Tulsa, and then he referred me to Dr. Chicoine. Met with Dr. Chicoine that next Friday, the 29th. And then, 2.5 weeks after that, I was in for brain surgery. So October 13th. So from September 18th, it was the first MRI, to October 13th, I had brain surgery.
Yeah.
And
Quick. Back to back, everything's happening so fast.
Yeah. The hospital struggled to get everything scheduled because normally they do it all in the same building and they try and do it everything. And they had me come up basically for a week to get all my testing done before brain surgery. So I went up on Monday. They had me do a CT, an MRI, an X-ray. They had to do another MRI because they need to, in their imaging software for the brain surgery, like their software interfaces with how the imaging software works. And I didn't know this. Not all MRIs are the same. So, like, if you go to buy something to measure something, sometimes you have like the cheap scale and their cheap equipment. MRIs are the same thing. And I was like, I didn't know this thing at all. Yeah. I thought they were all the same. So they've got like top of the line, super duper MRI.
But they probably charge you the same for the ghetto one.
Right? Well,
I probably only had ghetto ones in my life.
Right? For most of the stuff you do, I think ghetto one's fine. But
but for your case,
for brain surgery, they want a better one. I was like, all right, well, that's a good idea.
Detail. We want detail.
And they took a CT, and I was like, well, we got the MRI. Why do we need a CT? And they're like, well, the MRI tells us where the mass is. They tell us how to deal with that. And then the CT locates the features of your skull for like the skull thickness. And so that way they can tell exactly how deep to drill, how deep to cut.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, and I was like, okay. And so I'm dealing through this, and I'm like, all right, well, we're fine. And so the one interesting thing to talk through is like when I went to see the Dr. Chicoine the first time, before I started taking all these, he had me do some tests because he deals specifically with vestibular schwannomas, which it's an acoustic neuroma. Is the old name because they thought it came from the acoustic nerve, and now they've determined it comes from the vestibular nerve, which is your balance nerve, causing vertigo.
Which is why the one-legged squat or the lunge or whatever it was.
Yep, and then my balance was kind of jacked. But he had me do just some basic stuff, the drunk walk. If you ever have anybody that can't walk the drunk walk while sober, that was me. I could not set one foot in front of the other one. Literally could not get the two to line up together.
Heel to toe.
I could not. As soon as I went to do it, I was like, I can't do this. Like I'm gonna fall over. I didn't know it.
Wow.
So went from running 9 miles to I can't set one foot in front of the other, and I don't know why. But apparently, in talking to Dr. Chicoine, my tumor was slow growing, but it was cystic. So that means there's some mass parts and some that are just like a big fluid section. And so those are faster growing than the other ones. So it's most likely I had the cystic portion or the mass portion for longer, and then it grew cystic.
Yeah. Probably during squats.
Yeah, during squats. Yeah.
Front flipping in ice stuff.
Yeah.
and-
It's that running. I'm telling you, it's the running.
It's the running. Yeah, it must have been it. Yeah, his cardio no. Cardio no.
It'd take me 2 weeks to run 9 miles right now. Like, oh shit.
But yeah, he said the normal growth rate for my tumor type is 1 to 2 millimeters in a year. And so based on my tumor size, it was anywhere from 5 to 20 years I had this tumor.
Damn.
And so all the stuff I'd done, all the squat stuff was done
With
a brain tumor.
Turns out, this is the breaking news. It was the tumor when he was in school that made him smart enough to become an engineer.
Yeah.
Turns out now that he's got it out,
He works at Brahms. No.
not that smart anymore.
He's the fry guy at Brahms now. Ooh, it's got a
No
hamstring.
offense to the fry guy at Brahms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that guy. Okay, so now we're in surgery, but before surgery, they're telling they're going to tell you what it's going to be like. What about like percentages of making it through? What are you going to feel like after?
So high percentage of making it through, but part of the forms you sign is death is an outcome.
Yeah.
He's like, it's not an impossibility. I've lost patients to this, but the tumor size, we dealt with your tumors. Typically the patients we dealt with that were larger than yours are a bigger issue, but we have dealt with yours at this sizing before, but death is still an option.
So comforting.
So I will say Dr. Chicoine was amazing. He is like super thoughtful on how he responds. Gives you very detailed and accurate information, but doesn't pull any punches.
Yeah.
And I really like that. But as part of the surgery, I have to deal with 2 doctors. So it's Dr. Chicoine does all the brain stuff, and then Dr. Rivera is the doctor that I hadn't even met yet. I didn't meet him till the day before surgery because I couldn't get time to find him.
Yeah.
But he does, he comes in, that's why it's 16-hour surgery. So he comes in and I have a soft spot behind where my ear is. So if you reach behind your ear, you'll find kind of a bump.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So that bump is the mastoid, I think it's called. It's basically this big area-looking structure that deals with your ear and how you hear. They cut all of that out, and I don't have any skull right there anymore. But so Dr. Rivera comes in and takes this, like I had 120 stitches or something on my head afterwards.
16-hour surgery.
Yeah. But he comes in and takes that and kind of peels, like your ear's literally taken off too. And so it's like part of the skin, but they fold all that back and then they drill in from the CT scan and all that stuff and then figure out where to drill through, and they take out this section of your skull, and then he starts into the inner ear canal. Weird thought, but like it's called a translabyrinth is the approach I come through. It was developed by a doctor in like 1870. They didn't start using it till the 1970s when they could actually, get steroids and antibiotics and everything to actually do stuff. But a doctor back in 1870 figured out where this should happen. Well, actually, that was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Dr. Rivera's got to cut all this stuff out, and then he gets in and deals with the small section of the tumor through like the ear canal and everything else. And then he switches over with Dr. Chicoine, and Dr. Chicoine comes in and he starts doing all the brain interaction, and then they remove as much as they possibly can. And so with mine, they ended up with leaving some strategically on the facial nerve. And so the facial nerve, I don't know, what I learned through all of this is basically all of your nerves kind of come together and then come down to your brainstem and then go out. So like the auditory nerve and the vestibular nerve are like side by side. They're like running parallel to each other, and those two get cut. One thing I learned when I woke up from my 16-hour surgery, which was like 24 hours later is when I wake up.
Yeah.
To figure out which nerves they're cutting, they stick probes in your hands and feet
To see what's happening.
Oh yeah, I'm
What?
basically getting cattle prodded.
Yeah.
Like I woke up with burn marks on my hands and burn marks on my legs and feet because they're trying to figure out where all the nerves are, because it's just mass material that looks similar to the nerve material, and so they don't want to sever the wrong nerves.
Yeah.
And so that's, they're figuring stuff out in my brain, which is different than everybody else's brains.
Damn.
I know that there's been a lot of people, I don't know if this is old news, but they used to be awake during brain surgery. So they could operate, play, like if you have a piano player, they could play the piano while make sure they don't hit the wrong nerves.
On
and
some
things like that.
Hannibal shit, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that movie.
Yeah, so they, that was actually one of the questions I asked about. I was like, did I have to be awake for this thing? They're like, no, you won't be awake.
You're like, thank God.
Yeah, I was terrified of that.
I bet,
I
yeah.
was just terrified of the fact that I would have to hear all that and deal with all that. And they're like, no, not with this type of tumor. They do that for one of the cancerous ones, because the cancerous ones, where mine's benign, just means slow growing. Doesn't mean it doesn't grow, doesn't mean it won't kill you. Just means it's slow growing is all benign means. Because they can kind of estimate where it is. It doesn't have like the tendrils that come out and interact with other areas of your brain. It's basically in one spot. So they just deal with it right there.
So they get most of it, or
So they got like 90% of it, and then left the portion that's on my facial nerve. And that's so that my face doesn't go like, if you ever seen somebody
Bell's
with
palsy.
Bell's palsy, that's what it looks like. It looks like your whole face just droops.
So
and so when you came back to the gym, you kind of had a little bit of that going on, right?
Yeah, so I still do. This side of my tongue is kind of the biggest thing. Like, I can't, I can feel, but I can't feel. It's like super muted. Like flossing my teeth, I have to watch out because I can cut the gums on this side. And so like when I go to the dentist, I'm like, hey, check out the right side, make sure everything looks right. Make sure that's good, because I just can't really tell.
Now you have an excuse not to floss.
Yeah, you guys do it for me.
So they cut all of the hearing nerves out when they did that. You cannot hear on that
Yeah,
side.
I'm deaf on the right side.
So the ear is just for decoration now.
yeah, it just makes me look pretty.
Yeah. So, not that I'm not taking this serious. I know
Oh,
it's
no,
a
that's-
very serious issue, but if you can't laugh about it, you'd be crying, right? So
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of why I'm on this thing. It's just kind of like deal through some of my issues and hopefully help other people.
So, right. So they get it all cut out. You have to do chemotherapy or radiation after that.
So I did radiation. I did a single day of radiation. So I did a single day of radiation this year in August. So I went back. So in the hospital, I stayed in the hospital for a week. And then after I got out, I had another MRI in February and then one in June. And then based on the one in June, I didn't have to have radiation. It's not growing, but basically dealing with Dr. Coyne and the radiology doctor, they're like, it's unlikely that it won't grow again. So we can just kind of wait and watch and kind of see how things grow long term, because where you're at is fine. But if you do radiation, it's more likely the dosing they give it,
solidified.
yeah, it kills it off at the rate it grows back. So it makes it so that it doesn't grow back.
So when you woke up from the surgery and came out of recovery and all that, could you walk at that point and talk?
No way.
Talking was fine. Walking, I didn't get to walk for about 2 days. So they didn't want me to walk. So I stood up day one. So let's see. Yeah, I woke up in the hospital. I was in the neurosurgery ICU, which means I've got like 2 nurses for me. And woke up in the neurosurgery ICU. But I woke up, and I didn't know this beforehand because it was such a compressed time schedule. There was just things that I'm sure they said that I didn't really pay attention to.
That's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
Yeah. The night before surgery, I was signing my will.
Yeah, I'd be scared
Yeah,
shitless,
yeah.
bro.
Yeah, my mom and dad stayed down here, just kind of take care of everything here because they're not good with hospitals. I didn't take any offense to that. It was more of they didn't want people worrying about them, and so they stayed out of the way. My brother my sister, and then my sister-in-law, my mother-in-law, everybody else came up.
Your wife.
Yeah, my wife.
Yeah.
Wife was with me.
Most important, right? Yeah.
She was with me the whole time.
Yeah,
So like when we left on Monday, she drove. After the MRI, and then talking through the brain tumor and everything else, they're like, you should not be driving at all.
This is a little off the subject of the actual medical part of it, but like, did you feel as the man of the house, the Kel that I know, feel the need to be strong for everyone else?
Yeah, there was. I had another seizure that I didn't tell anybody about.
Like, you're freaking terrified, but so are your children and
Yeah,
your wife, and
my-
you're just like, I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be okay.
You had a seizure alone?
Yeah. So before surgery, I had a second one. We'd gone up to Columbia, and then it was one of the trips. So I think I took 2 trips, and then went up the week for surgery. But I think it was the second one. Like when we came back, I could feel it coming on. I just basically had a seizure on my bed. It was like 2 minutes, but there's nothing anybody could do. I knew what it was at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Jess was already freaking out. Yeah. And I was like, if it gets worse, I can get, somebody involved. But if it's just going to be the same thing it was last time, there's
You already know you're getting ready to have the surgery,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah. Yeah. So at that
not
point,
gonna
it was
change
like,
anything.
I'm
You're
all
hard
good
for
as-
that, bro.
Yeah.
Fuck. You're hard for that.
Yeah, I didn't know. Like, I just sometimes like when there's things going on in people's lives and they're really, really struggling. Men do this, and I've never had a brain tumor, obviously. But when I'm struggling and people ask me, what can I do? No, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be okay because I don't want them to stress about it. I'm
Right.
stressing about it enough. I don't need them stressing about it also. So
Yeah.
And it being out of the person's hands.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's nothing
Yeah. There was
anyone
nothing
can do
anybody
about
could
it.
do about it. So it wasn't even
And that's I know, especially as an engineer, right? You're a problem solver.
right.
That's basically what engineers do. They solve
day
problems. And so you're not a doctor, but in your head, you're probably working this problem over and over and over and over nonstop.
Yep.
So how was the recovery? Let us know about that. And of course, all roads lead to the gym. What brought you back? Let's get into that a little bit. And
Yeah. So like in the hospital, when I came out of surgery, I had a drain in the top of my head. They literally
Bruh.
drilled. It was funny as shit. I had Jess touch it after they taken the drain out. It was like a week and a half later, and there was a soft spot. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that's weird. That's what it was. And Jess is like, what? And I was like, here, touch it. And she's like, oh, God, that is
Yeah.
disgusting.
I wouldn't be touching it, that's for sure.
But it was just they drilled through, and then the brain, the skull, your bones, like when you break something, they grow back together. It's the same thing. Like
Yeah.
they drilled this hole, and then it grew back closed.
kinda
But it
cool.
was kind of open for a couple of weeks, and then
Yeah.
she touched it. She's like, "Oh, that's horrible."
like a baby.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh no.
But so I've got this drain sticking out of the top of my head, and
Head shaved, completely
no,
shaved? No.
they just shaved the surgery site, and then basically the rest of my hair grew out in this matted, gnarly mess. So like I've got this spot that's shaved in the center of my head up here. I've got this spot that's shaved on the side
Yeah.
here, and everything else is long as fuck. Didn't even have a beard because I couldn't shave anymore. Like I was from about the time I had the seizure, I had been having headaches. They were more like they'd come on for like an hour or two and then go away, and I just kind of, all right, whatever, didn't drink enough water or something, didn't think much about it. The like 2 or 3 weeks leading up to surgery, there's a couple of days I had to just work from home, and I would be online when I was online, and otherwise I was sleeping. Like I couldn't deal with anything.
I said I would kind of move on to the recovery part, but I just wanted to ask you this question: like, what's your thoughts before surgery? Like, do you think this is it?
Yeah, I went into
thought-
surgery fully prepared to die.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
It sucks.
Making me emotional just
Yeah,
thinking
like
about
if I
it.
make it, I make it. But I assume.
Oh yeah, no, I talked to everybody. Written my kids' emails. And just the full-on thought of like, unlikely that I'll die, but it was fully walking in, and I was like, I told my wife, I was like, if I'm here and I'm awake, yeah, I can do whatever. I can tough it out. Like I'll make it through it. But on that operating room table,
It's out of your hands.
yeah, There's nothing I can do. It's just kind of up to.
First thing you think is like doctors are going to be optimistic. You know, they're going to. I mean, he was honest with you and told you that there's a chance you could die, but he was also optimistic that
Yeah.
we can do this.
Yeah.
But
He'd done this surgery in this place with this type of tumor in this size before. And I
But
was
your
like,
brain started playing tricks on you, like, well, maybe mine's a little different than they
Right.
think, or they get in there and something's not quite what they thought it
Yeah,
was.
I did nearly die. So they use propofol. That's what they use to like suppress your body so that you don't move. So basically, your breathing rate is super slow, so that your breathing isn't affecting the doctor. And apparently, I had some weird reaction to it, so they had to like stop surgery and kind of deal with my anesthesia levels through that. And then when I was coming out, they would normally do a longer like taper off, but I started having blood pressure issues, so they kicked it off entirely. So when I woke up intubated with a tube down my throat, and I was high on ketamine because that's what they give you to apparently deal with that. Yeah, that was the weirdest thing ever.
Got a tube out of the top of your head.
I don't know any of that at this
yeah.
point. I just woke up high, and if you've never been high, that's great for you. But if you've been high, I was like, okay, there's some fun times and there's some bad times, and this was the worst time ever in my life. I was like in a spaceship. I had pandas for that were like attending to me, and I didn't know what they were. Come to find out, those were my nurses.
Yeah. Solid pandas.
Dude,
Solid.
they looked like pandas.
Yeah.
So my eyes, when I woke up, my eyes didn't track together.
Oh wow.
So the two eyes did not function correctly. So like they,
You could do this.
yeah, they just did not work together at
What?
all. And that's when I woke up. That's why they were pandas. Is because my brain's trying to figure out what the fuck they are.
Yeah.
And
You're rebooting.
yeah, I was trying to deal through that. And I was strapped down to the bed because they don't want you to like try and pull out the intubation
Yeah.
tube or anything else. And so I'm like, oh, this sucks. This is awful. Like the next day, things were better, but my eyes didn't sort out for probably a month.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, I went to a specialist in Wichita like a week later because I wanted to get in. I wanted something because that vision thing sucked.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't hardly do anything because I just couldn't. You can't get depth perception if your eyes don't work together.
Yeah.
So I'm deaf on this side as soon as I wake up.
Eyes going crazy.
Eyes are going crazy, and I've got this tube out of the top of my fucking head. I'm like, this sucks.
But you're alive.
Yeah, I'm alive, so I'm dealing through it. Everything's fine. You know, they get me up, standing up a couple times. I can go to the bathroom. I have to do a swallow test because as you affect that facial nerve, like your facial nerve affects the swallowing portion as well. So if it's jacked, you can't swallow right, which means that you could get food in your lungs if you're trying to eat. So they have to check in. I've got all these people coming in all the time, an hour, and I'm in the ICU the entire 7 days I'm there. And so they check me out with swallow tests. All right, cool. So you're like 10 o'clock the night before, is the last time I could eat. Go through surgery that whole day, wake up the next morning, still can't eat. So the next day, solid almost 48 hours later is the first time I get to eat.
I bet you. Yeah.
I am so weak, I can't like eat, really feed myself. I just can't hardly get it up and moving. I also don't know at this point, but like my right side and left side aren't coordinating. If you do this, like the two hands should do it at the same rate. This hand and this hand, like this hand would go like this. This hand, my right hand would go.
Oh shit.
Is that possible to do if you? No, because this one stops when I.
Hey, he's gonna be laying in bed tonight like
I will.
Julie's gonna be like,
It's like
what
that
the
deal
hell
where
are
like
you
people
doing?
can't do this. Can't
He's like, you'll
turn
see
your
next
thumb.
week what I'm doing. You'll see
Yeah,
it.
I'll practice and let y'all see next week.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
yeah.
man.
So with the tube, the way they do it is they point a laser pointer at your little pointy there's a little name for it, but it's the pointy part of your ear.
Little
at the
pointy
bottom.
part.
Yeah. Little corner at your ear. They point a laser at that, and that's basically the same height as the base of your skull. Anytime I want to move, they have to call the nurses in. I move, they readjust the EBD
Damn.
for a week. So anytime I went to go for a walk, they had to clip it off so that it's not draining at too big a rate because they're draining brain fluid out the entire time I'm there. They pulled out like a cc or like a liter and a half of brain fluid.
It's now a lava lamp in your living room.
They kept it. I did not ask for that.
I was thinking Christmas present.
This is a serious. I'm good at the. You know what I mean? But I'm into it, right? I'm deep. This is deep, bro.
But yeah, so it's draining the entire week I'm there because as part of the brain tumor, it like opened up. You've got basically like blood vessels, but they're ventricles, and they're for transferring spinal fluid. Well, as the tumor pressed more on my spinal cord, it was causing a restriction in pressure. So they had to increase pressure, so your body just grows the ventricles,
Yeah.
which lets them pass fluid along. And that's eventually what was not working when I had the seizure. It was like it just couldn't pass fluid enough anymore. So I had to have the drain to deal with letting those get smaller. They don't get a lot smaller, but they get a little bit smaller. And so every day, for after the second day or whatever, I got to go for a walk, and I was like, I called my nurse in to go for a walk. Hey, can we go for a walk together?
Yeah.
You know, so I got my little leash because somebody has to pull the IV that's tied to my head with the brain fluid along as we're walking, and then I have to walk with a walker.
Yeah.
You know, 40 years old, running, doing all this stuff, and then have to walk with a walker everywhere.
Yeah. Within a month of
Yeah.
being a heavy gym hitter.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, this sucks a lot. And so I'm walking through there, and you know, it was kind of funny for me because I got moved from the neural ICU to the burn unit, like surgical ICU, because they had some stroke patients, and so they needed the space in the neural ICU, and so they moved me down because I was stable.
Yeah.
But I'm still in an ICU, so I've got different nurses and everything else. But they're like, we've never seen a patient with an EBD walk. They were like, this is weird. So we have to like figure out what's different about this process because it's entirely different. Normally, if we have a patient with an EBD, they don't leave the bed ever. And so I was like, no, I want to leave as often as possible. So whenever you guys have breaks, let me know.
Yeah.
And so I got up to like 3 walks a day where I could get up and walk around. But, you know, being in the gym, you know, every Wednesday I take the day off on the gym and I go do yoga at home because
cool.
I need to just stretch everything out. I've tightened up.
I need to do that bad.
I recommend it highly. And so, you know, I'm flexible. I have always been able to touch my toes. Like at my most flexible, I could reach like 6 inches past my toes.
Yeah.
Like no issues.
Shout out to JC on Tuesday and Thursday nights at 5:30 yoga here at Indy Fitness.
There you go.
The only reason you're not here is you, because we got the class.
Yeah. So what's your okay, so like what is your gym life like now?
So now I'm back to normal. So I'm
You
not
squat 495 right now?
No, I don't squat 495, but I'm back to doing the normal lifts. So
Yeah.
I do squat, bench, and deadlift. Doctor said there was no counterindications with anything I wanted to do. So like scuba diving, I can go back and scuba diving. If I wanted to skydive, I could do that. Like he said, basically just start slow.
Equilibrium, what's it like?
Equilibrium's good. So I went through physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy afterwards when I got back. So I spent a week in the hospital, come back here, and I went through all those. Physical therapists, Core Fitness across the street is where I've gone for several years.
They're great.
They're awesome.
They are great.
They're amazing people. Cannot like say enough good things about them. But yeah, I went there. I had 3 days a week doing physical therapy, and most of my physical therapy was just walking back and forth and then standing on squishy mats and trying to deal with how does my equilibrium deal with itself.
Yeah.
And then when I started doing like the occupational therapy, like I said, like the hand thing, I didn't know like really what was happening. They're like, oh, hey, no, your nerves aren't working in coordination. So like I had to spend time like tightening nuts and loosening nuts and doing all that sort of stuff. It's just different fine motor control.
Yeah.
I had to learn how to write with a pen again. I spent every day, I would sit down and do my eye exercises to try and get my eyes to coordinate. And then I would spend and write out everything, every letter in print, and then every letter in cursive, and then write the.
You'd be cool without cursive. Nobody uses that. It's a
Yeah, but
lost art.
when I went to sign my name, I was like, whose fucking name is that? Because I had signed my own name for signing out of the hospital to do the prescriptions when they leave. And then I was like, whose name is that? Like, I signed it, but that doesn't look my name at all.
You have like a new signature now.
It looks the same mostly now.
Yeah.
But it was entirely different when I got out of hospital. Like, it just
bet.
did nothing work right. I still have issues. Like, now I'll notice that sometimes I'll like go to type and I'll go to hit a key and I'm like, that didn't hit. Why didn't that hit? And it's just like weird little.
Depth.
It's not depth or anything. It's just like the nerves firing. Sometimes they just misfire.
Yeah.
And like sometimes I'll be walking and Justin's like, "What was that?" I'm like, "I just like got off balance."
Well, I know I talked to you at one point in here.
By the door. Was it by
yeah,
the door?
by the door.
I was here.
I don't remember if you were lift. I think you had come in to lift and you were just getting back.
I think
Maybe.
you were walking. Were you just coming here? To
Oh
walk?
yeah, when I first came back, I was just.
And you
coming
were
back
still
walking.
kind of slurring your words a little
Yeah.
bit at the time.
He was in awe. Like I had seen you from before, but he's like, whoa, he's back. Like,
I was super excited. So I mean, along this journey, from before you kind of came in and immersed yourself in the gym culture.
Yeah.
He's got a very intense. The one thing I remember about Kale is when he gets ready to lift. I mean, he's this super nice, passive, really kind of just a normal, quiet guy. But when he puts that mouthpiece in to lift, he gets this look on his face like the missing link from the 80s. Like, I mean, it's intense. So, I mean, he immersed himself in this powerlifting, and at 40 years old to get to the levels that you were starting to get to. Right. Do you have a desire to get back to that? What does the gym mean to you? Like, what does it mean to be back?
what's the goal now?
So I don't know that I'm going to get back to 1,000 Pound Club. Like right now, that is not the goal at all. Right now, it's just getting more overall healthy. I will say the biggest experience I had with this is, you don't ever have a good time to get better.
Yeah.
Like I've tried to do as much as possible in a year's time span, with the brain surgery and then getting radiation again. I didn't have to get radiation, but I don't get any younger.
Yeah.
I mean, you recover any easier the older you get. Like it just gets harder the older you get. Mm-hmm. And so like I'm just trying to be more active and hit those spots I always tried to miss before. Previously it was, okay, I'm going to do squats, I'm running short on time, I'm just going to get that done today, and then I'll skip the auxiliaries, and then I'll work on that, other stuff a little bit later.
Now.
Yeah, and now it's like, no, I'm gonna hit the squats, but I'm not gonna hit them as hard, and then I'm gonna make sure I hit all those auxiliaries and make sure that both sides are, firing and working like they should be. Yeah. Making sure balance is where, like, I'm sure Chad's seen me on the camera in the back, because I'll go in the back some days and set up cones and just do random weird shit. Because I'll try different like exercises with different cones and stuff to see if I can do it. Like it would have been after physical therapy, after I'd gone back to work. My youngest son was doing basketball, and he was struggling with a layup. And I was like, all right, here, buddy, let's try it again. And he went through it and he was struggling. I was like, all right, let's just do this. And then I was like, here, watch Dad. And I went to take a jump, and I took the first shot, no problem. Went to do it again so he could see it better, and I rolled my ankle. Like I came down, I had no clue where I was in space. Like my body didn't exist anymore, and then I came down on top of my ankle and, just sprained the shit out of it. And I was like, oh, so basketball's out. All right.
At least for now.
And it was just, my body had no idea how to adapt to that because I'd not done that before.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to work on those specific things where I want to do something. All right. Do I want to jump? Yes. All right. So I got to work on jumping in the back, just practice these stupid, just repetitive things. So my body gets an idea of how this works.
I mean, a lot of people would have just quit at that point.
Yeah.
There's got to be something that drives you every day. I mean, I know you got young kids still and a great wife, but I mean, like, something's got you back here in the morning. Is it I want to get better, I want to be healthier, I just love the gym, I want to do this for my kid? Well, what's the motivation every day?
So I would say my biggest motivation was I want my kids to be healthier, and I want my kids to know that, being healthier. And, my dad was always opposed to the gym. He's like, it's stupid. You get enough, because Dad did construction.
Yeah.
He's like, you get enough from work. I'm like, well, I got a job because I didn't want to work construction. I took a year off college because I was like, no, I'm done. College is stupid. I took a year off. I worked with Dad for a year, and I was like, yeah, I'm just going to do construction. And then I was like, no, this is stupid. I'm better than this. I don't need to hurt this much for this job. And the work is so inconsistent that I don't need to do this. So I went back to school, and I bettered myself because I wanted to be better. And then, now with kids, I'm like, there are times when the gym is the better option. When you are, hey, I can't lift weights. I don't know how to do that. I'm overweight. I need to do that. If you need to just start with walking, 40 years old, I had to learn how to walk again.
Yeah.
I walked with a walker from October 13th till Neowalla. Neowalla was the first day. October 27th was the first day I walked without a walker. And I showed up here, and I had on sunglasses that we'd put cling wrap on the inside because it just blocked my vision. And so I could only see out the left side. And so I just walked around with the sunglasses on all day. I would say 90% of the people I ran into had no clue I had brain surgery because I was just walking like normal.
Yeah.
But that was the first day that I got back and went just out and about walking. And then, that was in part because of my physical therapy, in part, like, I took recovery hardcore as my full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every day I get up, and I couldn't get up at 5 anymore. Like, I was not getting up. I couldn't just function. Just did not have enough energy. And so I was like, all right, well, I'll sleep into whenever I need to, and then get up and go exercise, and then whenever I'm done. And there's this fine line when you're coming back from something big. My brother had his knee replaced, and so he's talked about this too. There's a fine line between, pushing it hard and pushing it too hard. Because there are times when you push it hard and you just keep going and you're fine. Mm-hmm. And there are times when you push it too hard and you can't do anything for 2 days, and that is worse. I saw, somebody one day, they were talking, they're like, yeah, just come in 70% effort. Like, if you walk out and you feel like you've done something, that's enough.
Yeah.
If you walk in and you feel like you killed it and you're so sore you can't move the next day, that's not what you want to do. You won't come back.
We've kind of talked about that as like a lot of people who come to the gym for the first time or the first time in a long time, they're, we talked a lot about motivation. They're highly motivated, and they come in here and they're like, all right, this is it. And they come in here and just kill it.
I've seen people come in day one and hit every muscle group, like being here for like 3 hours, and then you don't see them again.
Yeah.
Like 2 weeks later, you see them out and about, and they're like, "Yeah, man, I'm still sore."
Try to give them advice. Start slow, but
I mean,
start.
If you can just start with walking, like just getting more steps in a day. It's hey, track how many steps did you have? Did you have 5,000 steps yesterday? Did you have 3,000?
We have some guys that come in here in the morning, some 80-year-old fellas.
Yeah.
And they'll tell me sometimes, I didn't do much today. And I say, you lapped every person that stayed home.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not about coming in here. I mean, the reality is, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 people that off the top of my head, nobody in here is going to be a professional athlete. And even those 3 that are at the top of my head, I mean, the chances are very slim.
Right. Yeah.
So what are we trying to do in here?
Right.
And I have to tell myself this all the time. Like, bro, you're 50 years old. You only bench in the 3. You're not setting any records.
Right.
You're not even coming
anywhere close.
Not anywhere close to a record.
Maybe a gray-haired record.
Shoot, no, them guys. I ain't even got gray hair. I got bald head. Like, I'm past that. Like, so what am I trying to prove? And you got to take the ego out of it sometimes, which for some of us is really, really hard to do.
Guaranteed.
It's really hard to do sometimes, and I'm working on it. I recognize that, and so I try to work on that. But I'm glad you brought that up, because somebody listening, Kale started over at 40 from learning how to basically walk and see and use a pen again. But he's back in here getting after it. How many days a week are you in here?
I do 3 now. So I do Monday, Tuesday, take off Wednesday, do my yoga. Thursday, come back for deadlifts. And then Friday, I typically take from home and just work on balance stuff.
Yeah.
So I've got one of those like 2-inch big squishy yoga mats, and it looks stupid. Pretty much anybody else could do it. But for me, raising and lowering my head and turning side to side, that is a challenge. And I have to do that once a week to make sure that works well. I walk back and forth in my living room and just like move in different ways. And then, if I've done some of that at home, if I had more time, then I'll come in and I'll do some of the other like balance type stuff, jumping around, jumping cones and that, just to get my balance where it needs to be a normal person. Went through all that. I ran the Tough Mudder again this year.
Awesome.
What?
Yeah, 11 miles.
So,
Oh my God.
Yeah,
You
saw the neurosurgeon, and he's like, how you doing? I was like, all right, it's all right. It's different new. I was like, I ran the Tough Mudder again, and he's like, you what?
Yeah.
He's like, that's not the normal response we get.
Yeah.
yeah, I
That's
remember
fire, dude.
it's nowhere. I'm not comparing shoulder surgery to brain surgery. But when I had my shoulder surgery, the doctor was like, "You'll bench again in a year," and I was like, "A freaking year?
Right?
Yeah.
What do you mean a year? I'm gonna be benching next, as soon as I can." And after 12 weeks of my physical therapy, they released me to full duty,
Right.
and so I just got me a broomstick.
Yeah, it
And I
doesn't.
laid on that bench and half benched a broomstick for a couple weeks till I could get a bar and till I could come down. And I had these blocks built so that I could set it down and not have to go all the way to my chest. And
Right.
it's
What you're recovering from. It's not what did you recover from. I recovered from brain surgery. You recovered from your shoulder.
Yeah.
My mom's in here, and when I came back just walking, it was trying to get my mom to walk better because she has asthma. She's got a hard time breathing anywhere she goes. And I'm like, hey, I need to walk. You need to walk too. So you're coming with me. And so we'd come in, we'd do laps. I'd do laps with her for a bit. She'd sit down. I'd go hit the gym and just do bodybuilding stuff to try and get both sides to work the same.
Yeah. That's
I
beautiful.
still have some weird, like, imbalance stuff. Like, I feel like sometimes my right is just not where it should be. And so I have to, like, work on that. And it's more of, like, getting your nervous system to fire like it should. I still find that today. I mean, a year later, I'm still working through those and trying to get those better. But it's whatever you're working through, like, just get back and try and do it. Just take one step in front of the other. If all you can do is walk, just try and do more.
right.
Yeah.
We're not trying to, get on the Chiefs practice squad or anything. I mean, we're trying to live our lives the best we can and be as healthy as we can along the way. And, my whole goal for this podcast, and me and Otto have talked at lengths about it, is like, we're not making we don't make a penny for this. In fact, this costs a lot of money to do.
Yeah. In time.
A lot of money, a lot of time. But the truth is we want to get these stories out
Right.
and inspire people.
Right.
And it's not about them making the money. It's about we had Haley Schulteis on last week, and nurse practitioner, and she talked about just how unhealthy our area of the country is.
Right.
And like, is that what we want to be known for?
Right.
When we look, you don't have to come to the gym. There's a park where there's a new walking track at the
Right.
new ball fields. They have workout stations. You can go to Walmart and buy you some dumbbells and get started, or like Kel said, you can just walk.
Or yoga at home.
Yoga.
Yoga.
I mean, you don't have to come to the gym. Just,
Move around.
man,
It's
I
just
want.
doing more than yesterday is all it is.
Right.
And that's all it's always going to be. Is like, you can't be any better than the worst state you're in before. I mean, you're not going to be like, I'm never going to be a professional athlete. I knew that long ago, but I do have goals I want to work towards.
Yeah. You're
And
still going to push the bar.
Yeah. It's where you want to go next. It's just working towards being a better version of yourself is all you're working towards.
I want to squat 495.
When I was thinking about these potential professional athletes that are at the gym, I think the jury's still out on Chance Main. I mean, he's only a year out of college football. He's been to some NASCAR things, and he's coaching right now. But then you got Keaton Jones, he's a senior in high school, just got a scholarship to Missouri. He's going to be playing right across from where your surgery was. He'll be, that's an SEC team. If you're in the SEC, you have a chance, right? So he's going there next year, and then of course we got Hagan.
Yeah.
I guess he is a professional athlete.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not like well known at this point, but other than that, like we're just people trying to get better. And honestly, if you brought Hagan in here, he'd say the same thing. I'm just trying to get better.
Yeah.
I just happen to be way stronger than everybody else. I'm not.
Right.
I'm just in here trying to get better. So I mean, nobody here is going to be a professional athlete. You don't need to come in here and be intimidated or.
That was the thing I've loved about this gym. And like I said, I wouldn't have tried out for 1,000 Pound Club if Chad not hit me up about it. I didn't know Chad before, but he just came in and was like, "Hey, dude, what's up? You should try out for 1,000 Pound Club." What the hell?
Who are you, bro?
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. And now, he got into it, man. My daughter was in here today. She has 3 young kids, doesn't live anywhere near a gym. She wanted to come in and kind of learn the lifts and see where she was at, and we did that. And I was really, me and her been to a concert, and we spent the whole weekend together, and the grandkids, and I'm exhausted, but she came in here and learned some things, and I told her you're going to be humbled a little bit. She thought she would just come in and just get in the 500-pound club. I think it didn't work that way.
Right.
And if it did, if it was as easy as just walking in the door, putting the weight on and doing 500-pound club, then the 500-pound club doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've had people come in and say, well, can I use this or this device that helps me bench press more, and I'll get there then? And I'm like, no, you cannot do that.
Right.
You gotta put the work in.
You got to put the work in, or else why don't we just have people call in and tell us they want their name on the board?
Right.
Because it doesn't mean anything if you don't work for it. It's for one of my old buddies used to say, it's for pride and very little of that.
Right.
Like, it's not. You don't win anything, but that means something to some people.
Right.
Mathlete coming to hit.
Right.
At the end of each hit workout, based on my judgment, based on the effort that I see from the participants, I give a little round silver sticker that they put on the wall next to their name for Hit Man and Hit Woman of the Night. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean anything, but they want those stickers.
Yeah.
They want them. Mm-hmm. So, anybody who is inspired by Cale and his story, or you think that you have it tough, look at what he's been through, and if he can come back in here and do the things that he's doing, what's stopping you? Only you can answer that question. So, man, I really appreciate you being on here today. I know that when we first talked about it, you were like, I don't know.
It took me a while to get here. I mean, I had to think about it a while. Think about, did I really want to do that? To be fair, there was a handful of people that knew I had a brain tumor. There was a handful of people that knew I was going in for surgery. My coworkers knew because I dealt with them every day. But this is like my first public announcement.
Yeah.
People I went to high school with, nobody knows. Like, I haven't seen, I've got tons of Facebook friends, but there's only a handful of people that really know, when I went through. Because I kept it all private. Because it was first off, I didn't know if I was going to survive, so I didn't want to have to deal with all that. It was just let's deal with the thing directly in front of us and not deal with
Talk about it later.
Yeah. I for one just want to say I'm really glad you made it. You're inspiring to me. Makes
too,
me want to
bro.
go out there and start
Yeah.
go hit it a little harder.
I'm gonna go work on my squat.
Tomorrow I'm gonna hit it a little harder. I already worked out for the day. Tomorrow I'm gonna hit it a little harder, thinking, man, if Cale can get in here and get after it after having a freaking golf ball taken out of the center of his brain, then I can push a little harder.
Yeah.
What's stopping me?
Yeah, you're the only thing preventing yourself from getting better, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
All right, guys, man, I appreciate everybody. Otto, thank you. Good conversation today. And we will see you guys next week.